Hi, this is David Dickens, and today we are going to dive into a couple of not well understood rules about Roth IRAs. There are actually two different 5-year rules that have very little to do with each other. So we're going to unpack that today. Hopefully there's something in there for you. I'll go get Walter and we'll get started.
We're back at it for another edition of Cover Your Assets, KC. I'm Walter Storholt, as always, joined by David Dickens, President, Wealth Advisor, Creative One Advisors Group. You can find us online at the website, creativeoneadvisorsgroup.com. And a great episode today as we uncover these 5-year rules, two different ones in the Roth IRA world, and they, like David said, have nothing to do with each other. So it'll be fun to get some explanations of what these are and how they might impact your life. That's all coming up, but first, David, just want to say hello, and I hope you're doing well.
I am doing well. So this is relatively early June, and so the World Cup is coming to Kansas City.
That's right.
And so games start, this is like the 10th, I think, today might be. And so games start next week, and
yeah, they start
it'll be
tomorrow.
Interesting to see how many people show up. Well, in Kansas, the first game in Kansas City is the 16th.
Oh, okay, gotcha. The actual World Cup starts literally tomorrow with two of the games playing.
I'm sure that's right. And had I been a bigger soccer fan, I would have known that.
USA even plays on Friday this week. So
get out of town.
All three host countries get to play in the first 3 games. So there's Mexico's the first game, and well, maybe that's not accurate. Yeah, Canada then plays like on Friday, and then U.S. also on Friday. So.
Well, how about that?
Yeah. Kansas City's excitement, you're saying, starts next week.
Yes. Well, I mean, everybody, it's just a buzz here. Yeah. So I was surprised to know that England is holding up here, but they don't play any games here. I don't get the whole World Cup thing.
Huh.
Yeah, they're playing like in Miami and Houston, but they're staying here.
But they're staying in Kansas City. Wow.
Yeah.
How about that?
Kinda
I
crazy.
guess they wanted maybe a central location between the different sites they've got to go to.
Could be.
Or maybe they plan to play in one of the later rounds, and they want to be close, and they're looking into the future and saying, "Hey, we plan to be playing in Kansas City in the round of 16, and so we're going to be stationed there."
Round of 32 is here. I don't think there is. I think round of 16 goes somewhere else.
Okay,
Round of 32,
just 32
starts
so you
like
get 132
July
game.
3rd or something. So
okay, gotcha.
Who knows?
Well, it's pretty cool. It is interesting. I mean, these teams will be doing a lot of travel, so it's probably hard to pick an exactly central location for some of them because they'll be bouncing all over the country and even to different countries between the three of us.
Yes, I'm sure there was some AI algorithm that told them where the best place to
right?
headquarter would be.
They just wanted to be near you, David. That's all.
I think that's right.
They wanted to pick up on that positive energy that you and the team at Creative One Advisors Group have.
I think you nailed it right there.
Yeah, either that or maybe just some good Kansas City barbecue was on their mind.
Well, that could be too. You don't get much good barbecue over in Britain.
They're not known for their barbecue, are they?
No, they do a lot of mutton, I think.
Mutton. Not something you see on the menu over here very often.
Nope, very rarely.
Love it. Well, speaking of mutton, I don't know how to make a transition from that to Roth IRAs. I might have to ask AI if it has any ideas of how we could do that. But
yeah, because the Roth IRA is like the filet mignon of financial products. So
very nice.
Certainly no mutton in there.
That's right. Great point. Yeah. So if you want the filet mignon instead of the mutton, listen to today's episode. I love it, David. Well, when it comes to cooking a steak, everyone has their opinions, and there's some rules we need to follow to hit medium rare or medium, depending on what you like in that doneness of your steak. I guess there's kind of like rules in Roth IRAs. There's a few things we got to follow, even though what we ultimately end up doing with our Roth IRAs, flexible and up to us, we've got some things we've got to kind of keep in order here. So, yeah, what's with these 5-year rules? Why are and let's separate them. They're two totally different things, so one doesn't build off of the other necessarily. Let's dive in.
Yeah, so I think the reason why this exists is because when Congress layers on new laws, they don't go back and clean anything up in the past. So for whatever silly reason, we have these two different 5-year rules regarding Roth IRAs. So most listeners would know that there's 2 ways to get money into your Roth IRA. You can either contribute it or you can convert money from your IRA into your Roth IRA. So rule number 1 has to do with both contributions and conversions. And what it says is that if you want to, so you've got money in there one way or the other, and now you want to withdraw some money, is there going to be a tax on that money? And the answer is within the first 5 years of establishing a Roth. And just for additional background, you might have 2 or 3 different Roths. And for rule number 1, they only care about the first day you set up the first Roth. It doesn't matter when you did any other Roths you might have. So if you want to withdraw principal, let's say that you have contributed 50 grand over the years into this Roth IRA. Or maybe you did a one-time conversion of 50 grand. And now it's grown to 75 grand. You want to pull money out. You can withdraw the principal anytime you want. You can withdraw it the next day. And it's always tax-free. The principal you put in is always tax-free because you've already paid taxes on those dollars before you put the money in. But if you want to draw earnings, that might be taxable. And that depends on when you opened that first Roth IRA. If you are taking principal and some of the earnings out within the first 5 years of opening your very first Roth, then the earnings are taxed as ordinary income. After 5 years of opening your first Roth IRA, then, any withdrawal you take out of there is tax-free. So, for instance, quick example. Walter, I know you were going to say, do you have an example of that?
Yeah, sometimes these are easier to see in practice.
Yeah, and so this isn't directly taken out of a meeting from my office, but it's pretty close. So let's just say that Bob is 60 and his son is 30, and neither of them ever had a Roth until last year. So Bob, the dad, he converted 100 grand of his IRA into a brand new Roth. And the son had a change in jobs. He was going to have a low tax year. So he said, well, I'm going to convert 10 grand of my IRA into a Roth IRA and pay it low taxes. Good for him. Smart call. But now in mid-2026, the dad wants to withdraw $25,000 out of his brand new Roth. And the son needs $5,000 out of his $10,000 conversion. So what's the result? Well, the result is, as far as the first 5-year rule goes, nobody owes any tax because they're only taking principal out and they've already paid taxes on that principal. Now, if either of them would have wanted to take the entire thing out plus interest, they would have owed tax on the interest portion, whatever it had grown to. Maybe they put it in NVIDIA stock or something that had gone, up 30 or 40%. Well, it could be a pretty big tax bill. But either way, the principal they take out, no big deal. But in the first 5 years of opening your first Roth, the earnings that it has made will be taxable as ordinary income. So that is rule number 1, the first 5-year rule for Roth IRA. My guess is most of our listeners would know that rule and a little confused maybe about if I have 3 different Roth IRAs, are there different starting points for the 5-year rule? But other than that, everybody's pretty much clear that money you take out that was principal is not taxed, and the earnings in the first 5 years is taxable. So that one's pretty straightforward.
Makes a lot of sense, and I know that can be confusing when we're talking about original contributions versus something you've rolled into the account. I know that trips a lot of people up, so the example is helpful there.
So rule number 2 is where it gets wonky. And we might have an astute listener to this pod that might have said, wait a minute, the son is under 59 and a half years old. Shouldn't that trigger something? And the answer would be, yeah, you are correct. That would trigger the second 5-year rule. So the second 5-year rule has nothing to do with taxes. It only has to do with the 10% early withdrawal penalty. So that's the big, if you want to keep it clear in your brain, the first 5-year rule has to do with taxes. The second 5-year rule has to do with the early withdrawal penalty, 10% early withdrawal penalty. Since the dad is 60, he's over 59 and a half, no big deal. There is no such thing in his world as a 10% penalty for early withdrawal out of this. But the son is only 30, so it could be an issue. So back to our example. The son converted 10 grand before age 59 and a half. So if he had just taken money out of that IRA, not done a Roth conversion, he would have been assessed a 10% penalty for early withdrawal on his IRA. Now, there are a couple of backwater rules, if he's buying a first-time home buyer or if he's disabled or other things, but we're not talking about, he's just a regular guy. And so he avoided that 10% penalty for early withdrawal out of his IRA because he was doing a Roth conversion. What he had to do was pay the taxes on that conversion, because any time you do a Roth conversion, you owe taxes on the principal amount. But then he opens up a brand new Roth, and there was no penalty for early withdrawal. But now he wants to take dollars out of that Roth that is only a year old. So since his Roth account is less than 5 years old, he does not owe taxes on the principal. Let's say he wants to take the whole thing out. The 10 grand has grown to 12 grand. I'm not going to do any calculations here, but it's grown a little bit. He owes no tax on the principal, but he does owe tax on the earnings because he's owned it. He's had the Roth open for less than 5 years. And he owes a 10% penalty for early withdrawal on the entire transaction. You're like, wait a minute. Why would he owe a 10% penalty on the entire transaction? And so that's the big difference here. You kind of have to go back to when Congress made this, got this all set up such that these kind of transactions, these conversion transactions could be done. We need to look at what they were trying to prevent, or actually what they had to go back and fix once they realized that they had an unintended consequence that was causing them to bring in less tax revenue than they thought. So soon after this Roth IRA conversion law became law, advisors were helping their younger clients look for tax loopholes. So there was a group of them that started recommending that IRA owners under 59.5, well, they could get out of the 10% penalty by doing a Roth conversion, pay the taxes, and then basically immediately take the money out, and there would not be any taxes because they just paid the taxes. There wouldn't be any taxes on earnings because the transaction was done so quickly that the money hadn't been in the Roth very long, and there was no penalty for early withdrawal out of a Roth. And what Congress said is, wait a minute, that's not what we were talking about. So now, if the converted funds aren't held for at least 5 years or until age 59.5, any withdrawal that comes out before that 5-year holding period is subject to the 10% penalty for early withdrawal if you're under 59.5. The same penalty you would have paid if you had taken money out of your IRA. Hopefully, that is relatively clear. It's a wonky rule that can come back to bite you when you think you're doing something smart with a Roth conversion.
Makes sense. These are the things where, it kind of feels like minutia, David, but it's important minutia because if we get things wrong, we're subject to taxes, we're subject to penalties, and that's why we got to get these decisions right, no matter which 5 rule we're trying to navigate securely around.
Once it's done, there is not a way to undo it.
No toothpaste going back in the bottle.
Exactly. The toothpaste is out of the tube and it's not going back in. So I think now we know the 10% penalty happens on the entire transaction because it was a conversion. If it had been a contributed Roth, he would only owe the 10% penalty on the growth. So a further little complication there. This, I think, is why if you're a really, really good do-it-yourselfer, you can untangle this yourself. But as I was preparing for this podcast, I found a couple of things online that were just dead wrong. So I'd encourage you, if this is a situation you're dealing with, to try to get some actual advice, unless you're a super-duper do-it-yourselfer. So the one more complication, Walter, if this son had done a series of Roth conversions, let's say for whatever good reason, he did a Roth conversion in 2024 and 2025 and 2026. And now he wants to take the money out. What's important to know is that each conversion has its own 5-year rule on the 5-year rule number 2 about the age 59.5 penalty. The conversions do not have their own 5-year rule regarding rule number 1, whether the money comes out taxable or not. That is just the first Roth you've ever opened. But if you're under 59.5 and you're trying to navigate the penalty rule, that's 5-year rule number 2, that's when you have to keep track of each conversion and make sure that each conversion separately has eclipsed the 5-year, or those conversions that haven't been done more than 5 years in the past will each have their own age 15 and a half year penalty. So another, I think, good reason to get some pretty good advice is that's a complication that is a couple layers down in the detail. And so, for whatever reason, we've got some really good tax laws. Roths are a fantastic retirement vehicle, but they got a lot of rules associated with them, and they're kind of layered on. Each tax law throws a little bit something new, and then we need an interpretation from the IRS about that particular tax law, and sometimes that takes a year or two to come out. So if you find yourself in a situation like this, make sure you dig pretty deep so that you don't have an unexpected fight with the IRS on taxes or that age 59 and a half penalty.
Okay, very good. I have one last question for you, David. Tracking wise, what's the best way to track all this? Because this isn't something that feels like it's as easily tracked by your brokerage account or your Roth, or especially if it's from an old employer that, just all these various accounts you might have floating around in there trying to figure out, okay, how much I rolled over. Just keep this in a spreadsheet, keep this in a Word document somewhere that just for years into the future, you can go back and look and say, okay, here's what we did and why we did it. And is that good enough for record-keeping purposes?
It is. You report each year if you did a Roth conversion on your tax return. So the IRS has, depending on how good their systems are, they have ways of knowing, well, you said you did that. That's an IRS quandary right there as to how they keep track of it. But what you would want to do is have really good records of exactly how much you did, exactly when you did it, and into which Roth IRA you put it. I think one of the easiest ways to make sure you don't run afoul is don't have 3 or 4 different Roth IRAs. And frankly, I wouldn't have 3 or 4 different old 401ks, orphaned 401ks, or IRAs. We've talked about this on a prior podcast. I can only think of one good reason. I can think of 2 good reasons why you might have old 401ks. One is, no, I'm not going to go into that. Make this podcast a 40-minute podcast.
we unlock some other rules then, don't we?
We do. And it just gets super twisty. But the general rule of thumb that I try to give to clients and prospective clients is if they come in with 3 or 4 different orphaned 401ks and a couple of IRAs and 2 Roths, I'm like, no. You can't keep track of it. And honestly, I'm not going to keep track of it. We need to consolidate your financial situation so that it's easier for you to understand and easier for me to manage. So if you've got a big mess of 10 different retirement accounts, you should know that you have a really good reason for not consolidating them, or you ought to consolidate them.
All good thoughts. And yeah, we'd open up a whole nother can of worms if we go too far down that rabbit hole. So we'll save that maybe for another day, David, when you're feeling spicy and want to get into those details. Or it's just a great opportunity to remind you as you listen today, yeah, these things can get complex, especially the more moving parts that you have. And that's why it's great to have advice and guidance from somebody who's been through this before, has seen the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to financial planning, and can make sure that you're following that better path. That's what proper planning looks like. And you can get a complete planning review by giving a call to David and the team at Creative One Advisors Group. See where you stand right now, if you're a good fit to work with one another, what kind of difference can be made with proper planning, and then take next steps from there. Call 913-317-1414 if you're not an existing client and you've got questions about this, or you can go online to the website at creativeoneadvisorsgroup.com. We've got that contact information in the description of today's show, so you can also find it easily. David, good episode today. Thanks for tackling some sticky rules here, and we'll look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, that was a little tricky, and hopefully people didn't get bogged down in it. What I do want to mention, and my compliance team is going to be super excited for this next couple of sentences I'm going to say.
Excellent.
But if you are wrestling with Roth conversion issues, nothing I said today is specifically advice for you. Because as you can tell, there are so many twisty rules. It's like a spider web of rules. So none of this was specific advice for you. If you need some good advice, go to someone you trust. If we can help you, we'd love to do that. But don't take any of this as specific advice for you. we'll look forward to talking in another couple of weeks, and we'll have something, I hope, really good cooked up.
Sounds great. Thank you, David. Enjoy all the World Cup festivities happening around you and all the excitement that's in the air. And we'll talk again soon, in the midst of all of it, probably, on our next episode, right back here on Cover Your Assets KC. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk soon.
Creative One Advisors Group has been proudly serving families in the Kansas City metropolitan area since 2003. Over the years, we've evolved to help meet the needs of our clients, becoming KC Financial Advisors in 2010. In November 2021, our advisory business was acquired by Creative One Wealth, LLC, C1W, and in January 2025, we officially adopted the name Creative One Advisors Group. Previous episodes were recorded under the branding of KC Financial Advisors, which has since been rebranded as Creative One Advisors Group. Any references to KC Financial Advisors should now be understood as referring to Creative One Advisors Group. Investment advisory services are offered through Creative One Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Creative One Advisors Group is a DBA of Creative One Wealth. Insurance services are offered through licensed insurance professionals. Investment advisory services are provided in accordance with the fiduciary duty of care and loyalty that includes putting your interest first and disclosing conflicts. Insurance services have a best interest standard, which requires recommendations to be in your best interest. Creative One Wealth is not affiliated with or endorsed by any government agency and does not provide tax, legal, or estate planning advice or services. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No investment strategy can guarantee a profit or protect against loss. Neither asset allocation nor diversification can ensure a profit or guarantee against losses. None of the information contained herein shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit any offer to buy a security or any insurance product. Insurance product guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. The Creative One family of companies includes Creative One Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor, Creative One Securities, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor, and Creative One Marketing, LLC. These companies share common ownership. Additional details regarding advisory services are available in our firm's ADV Part 2A and Form CRS.